Hey everybody, how's it going? Having a great day. I finally beat this saw. Let me tell you guys, this saw was not cooperating. It would run good and then it would run poorly. It would idle, then it wouldn't idle. It would tune properly and then it would lose tune. It was all over the place. I know why now, but you know, getting to that point, I was pulling my hair out. I got a bald spot up here, believe me. So I like when stuff like that happens. It can be frustrating, but I like that kind of stuff because it gives me a chance maybe to help a few of you guys out. Problems happen with builds, and the more builds you do and you get that bulk of knowledge, the easier it becomes. It's not always easy, but at some point things just kind of fall into place. You kind of know what to look for and what not to look for. So okay, what was this saw doing? This saw was, the first time I started the saw, it was hard to start, right? So right away I thought air leak. I did have an air leak behind the flywheel, the keeper for the crank seal. And I mentioned this in the last video, I'm just doing a recap. I fixed that. I then did a pressure and vac test. It passed with flying colors. So I assumed that the intake block was leaking. Wasn't that. And then I thought, well, maybe my cylinder's leaking. Wasn't that either. Nothing's leaking, right? It passes a vac and a pressure test. Finally, this saw settled down. I started running it, and it was fine for a day. Here's a clip of me first running the saw. I really want you guys to listen. When I fire it up, when I touch the throttle, it's crazy fast. Now, part of that is the way I built this saw, but a lot of that is it's too lean. Okay? It goes zing, and then it goes down, and then it goes pop, 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 pop. That, again, you got to practice those saw sounds, right? So it goes zing up, and then comes down pretty quickly to say 4,000, 5,000 RPM. Then it goes pop, 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 pop. And then when I touch the throttle, it wants to die, and then it lights up again. Here's a clip of that. Listen carefully, because this is a good example of problems, and I'm going to tell you guys exactly what I did and exactly what the cause was. Here's that clip. You guys hear that? It's all over the place. It sounds good. It's crisp, but then it's not. It's loading up with fuel like it has an air leak, okay? And what I mean by loading up, you're over-fueling the saw. And what ends up happening is fuel will puddle in there, and then when you whack the throttle and the saw goes up, you know, when the RPM goes up, it'll pull that fuel in and it's actually flooding the saw a little bit. That's why when you touch the throttle, it's got that little bog. Okay? So that makes me think an air leak, because generally that means, you guys were asking me again about low jet tuning and jet tuning. That means that my low jet is slightly too rich. Okay? And the reason why it's too rich is it's overcoming an air leak. I have too much air entering the mixture through an air leak somewhere, right? So, excuse me, but the saw didn't have an air leak. It passed vac and pressure test. Okay, so that was day one. The saw ran good enough. I thought I had it more or less settled down. I left it. Okay, this is day 2. Okay, this is day 2. I took the saw outside and I'm running it and living life. Listen to this one. It's lazy coming up to high RPM, but it idles. I flip it upside down. It doesn't seem to have any problems. Watch this clip and study what it's doing. Okay, so I threw the saw outside for 10 minutes and let it idle. It idled. It sat there, it restarted, half a pole, but it's lazy coming off idle. High jet was at 7/8 of a turn there. Low jet was at 3 turns. Weird. 3 turns with a 390 carb on this. Now this saw is going to eat a lot of fuel to idle, but not that much fuel. But it ran, so I thought, well, it is a hot rod saw. If it runs good like that, I'm going to give it what it wants, right? Okay, so let's fast forward. I'm showing you guys the build up. Let's fast forward to the next day. This is a 3-day increment, okay? Let's fast forward to the next day. Now, I was filming a video to show you guys how an air leak can be fixed and all that, and it blew up in my face. Right when I thought I saw the saw, or thought I had the saw fixed, here's what happened. It won't restart, it won't tune properly, it's just all over the place. This is an excerpt from another video I was filming that just blew up in my face. So I cut about the first 5 minutes of the video out because the saw ran good, and then I shut it off to give you guys some tips, and then it just, watch. Okay, it just doesn't want to start now. So what does that tell us? Okay, hold on. Okay, friends, so what I'm going to do, let's see if we can make this work on video. I'm going to lean this thing up a little bit. Okay, now let's see if it starts. See, we flooded it a little bit. Okay, so see how it's kind of struggling to idle? So here's what I'm going to do. Now, again, being a hot rod, because we changed the carburetor, we also cannot adjust the idle right now. I may rectify that, but we can't adjust the idle right now without taking the top cover off. Now, I don't want to run this without the top cover off for too long because that affects the cooling of the saw, and I really don't want to overheat this thing. She's new, top to bottom, right? So, okay, I'm going to give the idle just a squeak. Okay, now let's fire the saw back up. friends, sometimes, I'm just going to sit down here. Sometimes with these saws, you got to play with them a little bit. This thing's breaking in. I had this thing idling for 10 minutes, no problems. Okay, let's see where we're at. This thing's wanting a lot of fuel at idle because of the way I built it. Okay, there's a full turn. 1.5. Okay, so we're just over 2 turns, friends. Okay, so we're going to put it back to where it was at. Okay, we're just going to play with it a little bit. As it breaks in, this is going to happen several times. If any of the commentary in that video doesn't make sense, that's an excerpt from another video, a video that didn't happen. So what do you do in that scenario? Do you get frustrated or quit? No, just sometimes you got to think about it, okay? Think about it. It's not, first thing you might think is a new saw builder, it's the porting. It's never the porting. Unless your carb is spitting fuel out it and it just won't idle, like unless your carb is spitting fuel or you're free porting, meaning the bottom of the piston is clearing the exhaust port, it's not the porting. Okay, so get that out of your mind right away. I've been there where I'm like, oh, when I first started porting, I had a saw that didn't run good and I assumed it was my porting. It's not that. It doesn't have an air leak. Okay, it doesn't. It's vacuum pressure tested several times. It holds for many minutes. It's not the fuel line. Fuel line's brand new in this saw. Fuel filter's brand new in this saw. So it's not those two. It's not the coil. Sometimes a coil will act like a bad carburetor, believe it or not. It's not the coil. I took the coil out of a running saw. I'm just going to take a sip here. So it's not the coil. It's also not the flywheel. Do you see where we're going here? What is it? You start pulling your brains out, and it's not the impulse line. I vacuum pressure tested the impulse line. It's not that. So what does that leave, friends? The carburetor. I want you guys to come in close here, okay? And then we're going to fire this saw up again. I want you guys to see this saw running now, okay? Here, we'll get you guys in real close here. Here, I got to clean up the shop, but I wanted to make a few videos for you guys before I did that. This is the carburetor that was on that saw, okay? Notice it's missing parts now, okay? This is a clone of a 390 carb. I'm not going to give the brand because Mr. Harvey sent this to me, the Iron Horse, and he's had good luck with these, so I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea, okay? Me personally, friends, here, you guys want to see something? Where is it here? Me personally, here's one of my carb bins. Okay, here's one of my carb bins. There's an aftermarket carb that's no good. There's another one. This is bits and pieces of about 4 of them. There's another one here. I have more. In fact, I've binned quite a few of them. I'll take whatever parts I can salvage off of them and throw them in the garbage so that nobody can ever go, hey, there's a carb. Okay. Out of 15 or 20 aftermarket carbs I've bought since I've been working on saws, 2 have worked. 2 have worked well. 2 or 3 have been acceptable, but not something I'd be happy with. And the other 10 or 15 have been just ridiculous. So friends, what I'm getting at, if you, I know OEM carbs are super expensive. Okay. I think this carb new is like $120 US or something. Okay. This carb was like $30. And I was willing to try it. I'm always open-minded. I will try things that I don't necessarily agree with or disagree with. I'll try new things. If somebody says, hey, these carbs work, I'll try them. Okay, so this carb, there's something wrong with it. It doesn't hold a tune. This carb would lose tune every night and almost every time I fired up the saw. Okay, now I'm going to back you guys up here. Let's talk about this. I want to talk to you guys the signs that your aftermarket carb is no good, okay? I want to talk to you guys about what my experiences with an aftermarket carb have been. Okay, so you guys saw all that video of this thing not running properly. Here, look, it's cold, okay? Stone cold, I haven't run this today. Again, guys, I got nothing to sell you. Just trying to help out. So, let's see. Here's a legit cold start of this saw. Okay? Okay, listen how it just settles down to idle and goes about its business. Restart. Okay, again, restart. Ready? Look. I'm barely pulling. Ready? Okay, what did I do? Well, let's get you guys back up here. I ripped the carb off my Junker 385. I planned to build that one day, but it's missing a lot of parts. A parts 385 will come along one day. I'm a patient man. Saws are not a need for me. They're a want, and I enjoy having them. But I would rather get this project finished. So I ripped the Tillotson carb off of my 385. I put a carb kit in it. That's an unproven carb. I bolted it on here. No sealant, no new gaskets, nothing. Bolted on. This thing runs like $1 million. Low jet is now at 3/4 of a turn. High jet is at 7/8. I haven't turned this up yet. This is probably going to be a 3/4 high jet saw. It's incredible. It's just good stuff. Okay, this is the kind of saw I like building. I like saws that start, run, and idle and are easy to deal with. This is a work saw. It's a high state of tune work saw, but it's still a work saw. There's no reason why you can't turn a saw right up and not have it last for quite a while. So you guys see the difference now, okay? I really wanted to share this with you. Aftermarket carbs, and I hate putting my foot down or drawing a line in the sand because often people go, well, what about this? What about that? There are some aftermarket carbs that are known to be good, okay? And I'm not going to list all of them here, but I know sometimes it's very tempting to buy an aftermarket carb. I've been there. I've done it many times. Remember those 200Ts I built back in the day on the channel? I bought 12 aftermarket carbs. They were like 20 bucks a carb, okay? I bought 12 of them. You know how many worked? 2. The first 2 I used, tuned, idled, worked. I ran those saws for about a week around the farm here. They ran fine. I told the guy buying them, hey man, these carbs are aftermarket, they seem to run in tune, and out the door they went, and they're still in production as far as I know. So the other 10, garbage. So yeah, it's a shame. I was hoping that this carb was going to be viable for me. I might order a few more and try them. It seemed to tune okay at the beginning, but the weird thing about this carb is it would lose tune overnight, and if you let the saw cool down, it would lose tune. So right there, that kind of tells you something's up. So here is the symptoms of a bad carburetor. Air leak symptoms, but yet you don't have an air leak. Irregular tuning, too much high jet, too much low jet, but yet it's not super rich. Okay, that's a sign. When you turn the screws, you don't get any adjustment, meaning the low jet on this carb, I could turn it a half turn and it wouldn't do much. Very lazy to tune, and then once you got it making fuel, it would be way too rich, okay? So that's the thing. Hard starting, okay? Easy flooding, but yet your jets aren't way out. Those are all signs of a bad carburetor. But the number one thing with a bad aftermarket carburetor that I've experienced, you'll get the saw running good that day. You might cut with it a little bit. The next day you put the saw down, you pick it up, you know, the next morning you're going to cut again, and the settings are completely all over the place. Way too rich, way too lean, or the saw won't start, or just floods right away. That seems to be what these carbs do. I don't know why. I don't know how a carburetor loses tune overnight, but they always do that. Or even you run the saw, you let it cool down, you go to fire it up and it won't start, or it starts and then it's super lazy or super rich. A hesitation off of idle, stumbliness like you guys saw in the videos. Again, aftermarket carbs. So there you guys go. This saw now has an OEM Tillotson 385 XP carb on it, and it runs way better. One more thing I did, even though we're going to pipe this saw, you guys might not see this saw for a week or two. I'm probably going to run it a bit in the wood, but right there, see that? I opened this is wide open. Here, let's turn the light on here. Okay, you guys see that? Okay. There's normally a deflector in here. I cut that wide open. Okay, you can pretty much see the piston. This thing needed way more muffler. You could feel something holding it back. So I just fish gilled this muffler. And quick and dirty, but it works, right? This is my muffler. I have tons of these. And I just ground a slot and then fish gilled this out and then bent that in, and there you go. Like that, this thing runs way better. So there you go. You don't have to have a welder to mod a muffler. Yeah, I don't get me wrong, it's not the prettiest fish gill, but it's not bad. I mean, if I dress this with a file and paint this, I mean, it'll look fine. It's a chainsaw, right? They get dirty, they get rusty, they get dented, is what it is. That's just my theory. There you guys go. Aftermarket carbs, try not to buy them. I get it. Sometimes you might find yourself in an aftermarket carb situation, but if you can avoid aftermarket carbs, please, 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 just don't buy them. They more often than not, they don't work. Rebuild your stock carb. 9 times out of 10, a rebuild kit will fix it. 9 times out of 10, in my experience, an aftermarket carb will make your saw run crazy all over the place and drive you nuts. So I spent an entire week fumbling with this saw, and it was this carb, and it wasn't acting like a carb. So there you guys go. Friends don't let friends run aftermarket carbs. Again, just my opinion. Take it for what it's worth, and that's just my thoughts on aftermarket carbs. As always, thanks for watching. Take her easy. Later, guys. We will put that in the wood shortly. Later.